Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, let me just do a quick, attendance. Claire, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Jonna?
Yep, I'm here.
Alrighty. Kayla, are you here? Oh, there you go. Hi. Samuel, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Alrighty. And Kayla... Says that Kayla left.
Oh.
Okay, so right now it's just...
Yeah, Kayla, did she accidentally click out of it? Oh, there she is.
Okay, I see her now.
Oh. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. My video isn't working on my computer, so I'm having to use my phone.
Okay. Alright, that's fine.
Alright.
Okay. So I guess we can start now. On the syllabus it says we have to cover three points when we're doing these weekly posts. So race and ethnicity, gender, class, income, sexuality, etc., etc. So I think, Samuel, for the article that you chose, I guess we can talk about identity and race for this one.
Yep, that seems pretty appropriate.
All right, let me pull up the questions that you had on the Google Doc right quick so we can have a more focus. Okay, so I'm pretty sure everybody here is familiar with Game of Thrones at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alrighty, so do you guys want to go by these questions, or do you just kind of want to talk about your own thoughts about the article first?
I think they're a pretty good starting point. So we can just...
Yeah, I agree. I think we should start there. And I also have a cold, so I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. That time of year.
It is.
Alrighty. Okay, so I guess we can start from the... Oh, I see your camera is working now.
Yep.
Okay. So the first question you wrote, Samuel, was the author states that the Dothraki are barbarians of the most stereotypical un-PC sort. The entire Game of Thrones series often portrays every civilization as being brutal. Do you see a large difference between how barbaric the Dothraki are represented versus other civilizations?
Yeah, so that, I felt like the author of the article was almost trying to stereotype them because they appear to be so much different than everybody else, but I still feel like they were just as barbaric as any other civilization that's in Game of Thrones, because everybody's always doing these brutal murderings or these awful traditions that they all have. It's just, I think the Dothraki look different than, say, people that are in the north or people in King's Landing, who are, I still think, do just as bad as stuff. So I think that was kind of the author almost being racist in a way.
Okay. Yeah, so I understand your point there, but I think what the author was getting across is that the Dothraki, they're seen as more heavily barbarized, they have more kind of in public, kind of raunchier sex than people in the Seven Kingdoms do, who, let's be honest, other than the Martells, are pretty much all white people. So, and yeah, any sexy or any sexual perversion, it's kind of more behind closed compared to the Dothraki. And I saw in the article there was a mentioning of the noble. So, does anybody want to comment on that? Heard of that trope being used in or anything like that?
Yeah, that was kind of a new to me, so I was kind of confused on that. So I guess I've never heard that term.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the wiki definition just to make.
Interesting how they juxtapose the worlds with everything that they do not behind closed doors, where like there determines what the rule is going to be and the punishment is executed like right in that moment. Those individuals are not white. The other law that helps guide their ways of making those decisions behind closed doors. So they are like terrible, like they're doing these the same terrible things that the Dothraki are, but they're doing them behind closed doors and in a quote civil way by all in like they're all clothed, eat with like utensils. So I think that of that like show the opposites and show that there is that racism exists in this world.
And going back to what you said, I remember something being in one of our past identity and social location. Yeah, identity and location kind of contribute to person's identity. Because of like live at across the seas, like for their society, for their culture, for their is pretty much in their perspective being as civilized compared to people. I don't know if any of you have ever read the books, but in the books, like people over across the narrow seas, and all those different locations, actually people who originate from the 70s as so in terms of this that and location would come up because pretty much people's view on how they people only cut and everything about that. And I did end up finding a wiki definition. So, like, the noble savage is a literary stock character who embodies the concept of outsider, wild human, other who has not been corrupted by civilization, and therefore symbolizes humanity's innate goodness. Would you guys say that this describes the noble savage would you guys say that this definition describes the Dothraki in any capacity, based on what you've seen or heard? Even by just looking at a picture, really.
I think they are, how I forgot how they just worded it in that definition, but they haven't been contaminated by other cultures and stuff. Because they haven't had any contact with anybody outside of where they're from, since they'd have to go across the seas. They are, but I don't necessarily know if that's for the better or the worse.
Anybody else?
I think that I really watch the Game of Thrones. I know I'm missing out on a ton. It's just I'm too cheap HBO subscription, so yeah, but. It kind of seems like how it is in reality, where there are cultures that, we don't know, they don't have any contact with the outside world, so they're seen as, savages and uneducated. Does it kind of split to that in anyone else's opinion?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How, nowadays we have some civilizations where we don't really know anything about them, and they haven't really contacted them. I think one thing that they're kind of similar. Or now?
I think it's very similar because you see that, as you said, you see it now in the world, remote parts, and we just make assumptions.
Yeah, I think a good example might be, for example, the Russians. I think in the States we all have this idea of Russians that they're all vodka drinking, gun toting, stiff.
Aren't they?
Hey, if you've ever gone to Russia, I mean, you may say something different.
Right. I guess that's just stereotypes in general.
Yeah, but depending on where you live at, that's all you have to really go on, really. Because who from the Seven Kingdoms, aside from Daenerys, ever really interacted with the Dothraki?
Not really before, so.
Yeah.
Even her opinion changed of him, right?
Khal Drogo. Like Daenerys' opinion of
Drogo, yeah.
I think, I'm pretty sure it did. It more changed for her own benefit because she had to kind of acclimate herself into the culture, kind of, go along to get along sort of thing.
Right, learning the language and...
Yeah, so it was kind of more for her own benefit rather than kind of just looking them and like kind of seeing things from their perspective, like just seeing them in a new light just for the sake of like being more enlightened about other people's situations, their culture, their backgrounds, with like no really need to be like feel like she needs to be a part of it in order to understand it.
Yeah.
And I think that there can be a real world application of that as well.
Kayla?
For example, like they thought our food would be like all deep fried, and like I think that when he wrote the series, he like had that idea in mind that there's stereotypes and that people from a different culture, they finally understand that those stereotypes are probably not true. In some cases they can be. Sometimes Americans are kind of loud, but
it's true. We can't help it. Okay, so as one more question that I want to ask before we go. So the Dothraki are pretty much the only brown people in the entire Game of Thrones series. So from what you read, or what you watch, how much of what you read or what you watch has inclusion of people who are not white, straight, etc., etc.? How much of those other people, like the minorities, are included in the stuff that you read or watch, would you say? And if they are included, like, how much of their character is pretty much dependent on stereotypes of, like, that race or that culture?
I think that something interesting to consider would be there's a new documentary called The Trouble with the Pooh, and it talks Indian American and just representation as a whole in media and how they become this one typical stereotype, and there aren't really a lot of shows go against the stereotypes. There are a few, and those are the groundbreakers. So like things such as Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal, which feature women and which feature black women in power and give them these lead roles. They're kind of breaking the mold of race and gender and starting to begin to address the issues that we have in our current media and television, where they're given these like mold roles where they have to fit the stereotype, and the way the characters are used are really not the best to their best potential. They're really more to play into the stereotype or to help the white person in a certain case. But I feel like we're now moving towards we're not there yet, but we still have a long ways to go, but we're going towards enlightenment and towards acknowledging different groups and identities and towards including them and being more inclusive in our film and media.
Okay. All right, so we're like at 15 minutes in. I don't know if like our professor is gonna have a problem with this. Hope not. Hopefully not. But do you guys want to like pitch anything in before we end the conversation?
That was a pretty good first one.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Hey, Kayla, did you end up downloading that call note thing?
I did, but I don't have, since my computer wouldn't let my Skype, my internet didn't work, so I had to go onto my data on my phone, so I didn't get to record it.
Okay, well, hopefully it should be fine on my end. I'm gonna try and see real quick. Like, here, stay with me for 1 second. I'm gonna make sure